Here in the Northern Rockies, dark winter months are outlasted in basements, dens, and nooks where kindred souls gather together to share intel, swap fly patterns, and relive the memories from seasons past. This gathering spot, known locally as the February Room, is the inspiration for this podcast. No matter the season, the door is always open to those with a fly fishing story to tell. Brought to you by CD Fishing USA, the North American distributor for composite development fly rods and accessories. 40 years of Kiwi ingenuity and graphite technology now available at cd-fishing.us or your local CD USA dealer. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And remember to go fishing. Here's your host, the Carnops, and this is the February Room.
I can attest that being a summer steelhead guide demands a modicum of optimism. Guiding for winter steelhead, specifically winter steelhead on the swung fly, requires almost a faith-like obsession. Today's guest is one of those grinders who I have to imagine believes that he is going to find a fish every day. But what really makes him unique among steelhead guides is that he has managed to stay married for 3 years. Dax Messett, welcome to the February Room.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. Appreciate it.
Well, yeah, man, it's really good to hear your voice. It's been too long. I've missed you on the couple of times that I've gotten out into your neck of the woods the last couple of years, and I'm really looking forward to catching up. But first, I know you've got volumes of stories from your adventures. Can you share one with us?
Well,
or two?
I thought about that when you brought it up the other day, and I've done some other podcasts and, video interviews, and I have to say that this is the first one I've done in the morning. Therefore, I haven't had any scotch with Simon Gosworth and Johnny before, or just, I did Hogan Brown's podcast. Great dude. I saw you had him on too. And he's like, I kind of want it to be like we're on a campfire. And I'm like, well, campfire, I drink beer and whiskey. So over the course of that podcast, I might have had one too many. Maybe he did too. I'm not sure. And towards the end of it, we weren't talking about fishing at all. We were like talking about all this old obscure punk rock that we both enjoy and college football. And it just spiraled into that. So, and in other ones, the classic guide story, you end up talking about ridiculous, dumb stuff that clients did, and some of those end up, you re-listen to them, and it's like, and some of the feedback I'd get, it's like, why would anybody want to fish with you? It sounds like you're really mean to the clients and make fun of them for doing dumb shit, which is what every guide does at the end of the day. It's not like we're making fun of them, but we talk about, I guess some of the dumb shit they did. So I'll make fun of myself in the first story instead of clients. And it's just bringing up like things that happen when you travel that could happen to anybody. In my first trip to Mexico to go tarpon fishing and bone fishing, and permit wasn't really on my mind back then because I hadn't tortured myself with those yet. And it was 2012, I believe. And I'm hosting a couple weeks, doing like the baby tarpon tour, juvie tarpon tour. And I went down for about a month. And so I just was freelancing for the first couple of weeks before I met up with my crew of clients on the hosted trip. And, I kind of dig around and I wanted to go hang out in Playa del Carmen. And I was wondering if there was any fishing there. And my buddy dialing at Flywater Travel's like, I don't know, contact this guy. And then I contact this one dude, and then he has me contact another dude, and he's like, oh yeah, you can meet up with this dude named Gaspar out of Cozumel. You take a ferry over and you walk off the ferry and kind of walk to this little cafe, and you'll see him there, and you're gonna go bone fishing. And I'm like, sweet, sounds simple enough. So I go take the ferry and I meet Gaspar, and my Spanish is awful. I'm sorry, I try to brush up before I go. So I knew a little bit, and he knew absolutely no English. But, you jump in a car, trust in this guy, and you go in his little truck, and we come out to this pretty sweet, it wasn't even a pong, it was like a full-on, like, really expensive flat skiff that was kind of surprising. And we jump in it, I'm like, awesome, because I knew nothing about what was going to happen. And so we cruise around for about 25 minutes and we pull up to this really nice looking flat, and I'm like, sweet, all right. And we hop out of the boat, and he's, again, no English, terrible. We cannot communicate with each other, and he starts walking into this jungle, and I'm like, where's he going? He's like, vámonos, vámonos, you know? So I'm like looking at this flat, like, why are we leaving this to go into this jungle? Like, is this like, am I going to be on 60 Minutes or something? Like, so we go in this jungle, and like, it's full on mosquito, like horrible, you know, just awful. Like, and we end up in this like bog, and like, and we're kind of now walking through this mud quicksand stuff. And dude, I'm like, what is going on here? Does this dude know what I want to do? And we end up at this boat that's just like full of trees and branches and sticks and shit. And like, mind you, we leave this like Hell's Bay boat to like, and it's like this 10-foot V-hull like stuck in this bog. And I'm like, what the fuck? Where are we going? Seriously. So he kind of pushes it off a little bit, and he's like, vámonos, get in. And, you know, you start to ask yourself, should I get in this thing? Like, what are we doing? So he starts pulling me through this, like, swamp, but terrible bugs. And, you know, and he's like 5'2", maybe 5'1". And so there's not, like, it's not tippy back there, but I'm up in the bow, and there's, like, this bench seat and no floor. And I'm just like, are we going to a flat? Like, what are we doing? And why'd we leave that other one? So we end up, and dude, all of a sudden, it opens up into this unbelievable, like, enclosed bay. And I immediately see hundreds of bonefish tailing. Hundreds of them. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, okay now, okay. I'm like, muy bien, all right. And so he pulls over and like, yeah, dude, instant, like first cast, bam, bonefish. And I'm like, all right, that was cool. Mission already accomplished. Like, wow, that's really cool. He didn't bring me here to sell me off. And so like on my third cast and third bonefish, this bonefish makes its run, and it all of a sudden he blasts through this school of like 10 mid-teens pound permit. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that's what I want there. And he's like, oh, and I'm like, well, permit, that's what and I wasn't even going there for permit. I had no permit flies. I had not, you know what I mean? And didn't think they would even be there. And he's like,
yeah.
And he kind of says, you sure you want to catch them? We catch many bonefish, but very hard to catch permit. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm a winter steelhead guy, dude. I'm used to not catching anything all the time. And so I like catching stuff that's super challenging. And so we kind of put that together. And so we spend the rest of the day, Justin, I don't know how many shots I had, a dozen at permit ranging from, you know, mid-teens to over 20. You know, there were a few giant onesies, twosies, but in terms of like, there wasn't any guide-client communication that was really good enough, or I wasn't good enough casting or whatever. And, you know, he bumped the boat into a rock, and of course they're just like spooky as shit anyway, and then they'd blast off. And so, like, I might have had a couple each, you know. I didn't know how to strip, what they felt like when they eat, how long, you know. So it ended up just being a super memorable, really cool experience. And I was happy I didn't get murdered, and I didn't cast to another bonefish, and that started my obsession with Evil Permit. And the story ends as, you know, I'm just elated, and I gave him all the money in my wallet for a tip, except like, you know, 30 pesos for a beer on the ferry back to Playa. And I end up, and I got my beer, and I'm in line to get on the ferry, and there were these cute little Mayan girls, like kind of, you know, trying to talk to me and like being real cute, and I had like my flats boots dangling off my pack, and they were like kind of hitting them back and forth, and I thought I might have felt something brush against me, but I thought nothing of it. And then right as the line drops for everybody to push onto this ferry, like hundreds of people. And this lady behind me grabs me. She's like, that girl right there, that little girl stole your wallet. I watched it. I watched her take your wallet. And I'm like, what? And I feel my wallet's gone. And they were those cute girls like messing with me. Little did they know there was like $3 American in my wallet. It was like worth it. You know what I mean? Because oh, dude, if I looked like some rich American, wrong, dude, I'm a broke fishing guide. Like, you couldn't have.
Good luck with that identity.
You know, and it didn't even have my, so all I had in there, I think, was like a bank card and like a AAA card or something, like, but still I was angry. So I was the angry white American. I just part through all these, I'm pushing people over until I was able to grab her. And she's like 9, and I have her by her shoulder, and I'm like, give me my effing wallet. I'm screaming at her, you know what I mean? And a couple of people are like, that doesn't look right.
Oh, God.
And again,
no.
and so I'm screaming at her, and she's like, I don't have it. And so cops, of course, start coming over because I'm assaulting a 9-year-old. And they're like, one of them thankfully spoke English. And I'm like, this girl took my wallet. And the lady behind me, she's like, yep, I watched her take it. She had, and so they kind of do this half-assed frisk on her. And this ferry's wanting to leave. And so the captain of the ferry's like, let's go. And so she obviously passed it off to one of her accomplices, like these cute little Mayan girls, you know. And wallet's gone, and I end up missing that ferry because my friggin' ticket was in the wallet, right? And so they take care of me and let me get on the next ferry, and then I had to call my mom to send some because I'm in the middle of Playa del Carmen, and the one bank card I had was gone for the whole trip, you know. So I had some money in the safe at the hotel room, but anyway, that's how that story ended up. So. Keep your wallet in a zippered or a fanny pack or whatever. Just keep your eyes on a swivel in crowded places in any city, even if it's cute little kids and you just got done having your mind blown permit and bone fishing.
And did you say that was on Cozumel?
Yeah, dude, like in the tourist mecca of Cozumel, Gaspar, and I think I still have the guy who put me in touch with him. And again, this is probably 10 years ago. And I asked about this, of course, then you start doing research and you find it on Google Earth after that came out. And so it's something that those permits aren't always in there. But at that time, they were literally trapped in there because the sandbar was such that it needed to get blown out again with a storm or whatnot. So those permits were just swimming around eating what was in this gigantic, I mean, it was this huge laguna. It was huge. And Gaspar worked hard to pull me around in a boat that's not meant to be pulled or fished out of. You know what I mean? Like a pram would be cool in there. Like that would have been cool. Like pulling around in a pram because it was just hard to be quiet and the boat's just constantly tipping. You're like almost, you know, surfing, you know what I mean? Or snowboarding with how much that boat rocked as you're chasing these gigantic permit around and getting more and more frustrated with both your inability to catch them and knowing that this might not ever happen again.
So,
you know?
Man, my wife and I went to Cozumel. We went to Cozumel for our honeymoon. And we didn't know we were going to go to Cozumel. My mother-in-law used to be a flight attendant for an airline. And so we were just flying standby, and we were going to go to Cancun, and we were going to rent a car, and we were going to wing it and just drive down the Yucatan, you know. And we get to the airport, and there's no flights available to Cancun, but there's 2 seats open for Cozumel. So we go to Cozumel, you know, we don't have anything booked. We don't have anything planned. We've got 2 backpacks, you know, a couple fly rods and some cash. And we ended up just going hotel to hotel and saying, hey, we got $40, you got a room. And it worked. And we ended up driving around to kind of the uninhabited side of Cozumel. And they shut down the gates to get around there at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night at the time. And incidentally, I, of course, wanted to go try to catch some fish. And I ended up sitting through, this dreadful timeshare presentation with the allure of a bone fishing trip on the back end. And of course, the guide never showed up for the bone fishing trip, right? So got totally hosed on that. My wife and I ended up renting this Volkswagen Beetle that it didn't have two panels that were the same color. And there was a hole in the floor, and it had like 3 gears, and the second gear slipped so badly you could hardly get it in. And my wife couldn't drive it, and I could barely drive it, but it was like $6 a day. So we ended up renting this Beetle. Oh, it was great, man. And we drove around to that uninhabited side of the island, and there was this really cool little motel back there called Ventana del Mar, Windows of the Sea. And next to Ventana del Mar, there was a bar and a restaurant, and it was the only thing within eyesight on that side of the island. And my wife and I go to the bar one night, and I have too much to drink, and I get back to the room, and I realize my wallet's gone. And and I've got both of our IDs in there, all of our cash, everything for the trip, everything to get home is in that wallet. And so I stumble out of the room, and I go search the closed down bar to see if my wallet's possibly on the floor or something. And I see this dark spot on the staircase, and I'm approaching it, and I'm like trying to determine if it's my wallet or not. I'm about to grab it, and it's this huge tarantula.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
So it's not my wallet, but anyway, this dude that worked there, like the caretaker guy, came and found me and gave me my wallet back, right? Beautiful. Not a dollar missing in it, nothing. And yeah, man, just completely saved our asses.
Wow. See that? Look, for every rough story like mine, there's a beautiful one like yours, And there are good, not everybody's trying to get you when you're traveling down there or anywhere else for that matter. And hearing stories like that, it's kind of gives you a little bit of hope, right?
Yeah, man, it was awesome. And I thought, wow, it's a good thing that I'm not in Detroit, or or Portland,
sure.
or wherever. Not everywhere would my wallet have been returned like that. So that was amazing. But that's awesome that you had that fishing experience down there. I was hoping to find something like that, but the timeshare deal didn't work out quite as good for me. So anyway,
at least you didn't have to call your mom to send some cash to some weird bank in the bad side of Playa del Carmen, dudes with machine guns outside. I'm like, that's what it came down to, and she's like, see, I knew it. My mom's like one of those people that has left Western Pennsylvania 3 times in her whole life, and all this traveling I do, she's just in constant
so that's what you get for traveling.
Now she's right. Yeah. See, that wouldn't have happened in Farrell. Well, actually, but anyway.
And now a brief message from our sponsors. Born from Japanese Toray, CD's unique manufacturing process involves winding the graphite fibers inside the blank, negating heavy thread wraps at the end of each section, creating a lighter and more durable fly rod. Check out the XLS2 and the ICT2 at your local CD USA dealer, or go to cd-fishing.us. And remember to go fishing.
Well, so Dax, simply put, what does a year in the life of Dax Messett look like?
Well, I kind of, I'm not bouncing around quite as much as when we first met each other and we're talking. I'm a little more, I actually have, I'm not homeless anymore. My beautiful wife and I have a place in Medford. And she also was a full-time fishing guide for several years. Like me, that's how she's able to tolerate the winter steelhead thing. and the amount of traveling I do, because she's game. She's as crazy as I am, if not more, about all that fishing stuff. But we do have a home base in Medford, and we're stoked on that. And so January, February, March, we have a place in Gold Beach that we rent out, and that's kind of where my guide operation is based, and she guides winter fish too. And yeah, just did a group trip with Johnny, so we do everything from group trips to just one-on-one guide days. And you know, mid-February to mid-April, I was going up to the Olympic Peninsula for, I think I did that for 8 years or so. And between COVID happening in 2020 and the politicized aspect of it, I've kind of taken a break from that for the time being, and just gonna let my local buddies that live there take people fishing and send people up to them. It's still one of my favorite places to swing a fly in the world. Love that place, super special. But I'm sticking to the Southern Oregon coast through March, and first week of April, a few years back, I got a North Umpqua flywater permit, and there's only 9, and I was on the list for, I think, about 16 years to get that. So I was super stoked when I was finally, my turn was up, if you will, and made it happen. And then sadly the river burned down, and it's like the end of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was there when that happened, but anyway, but so gonna do a couple trips up there end of March, early April, and then usually April, May, I do some saltwater hosted trips. And I've done this year I'm doing, I'm gonna do Honduras, Roatan, fish with my buddy Greg Baldwin, and after that I'm gonna head down to Belize, fish Blue Horizon, and very, very cool place. And then at the end of May, I'll do a few salmon fly trips on the Upper Rogue. And then come June, I go down. I still love the Fall River Valley in NorCal. It's one of my favorite trout fisheries on the planet, and that's even after spending 8 or 9 years in New Zealand. I still love that valley, and I just fish dries and sinking lines there, Spring Creek, and I really dig that place. And then come July, it's a split between some more hosted travel. This year I'm doing the Bolivia thing again for Golden Dorado. I really dig that fishing. We talked a little bit about that, and then I'll do some North Umpqua stuff. And then August, I go up to hosting a trip at Jeff Hickman's Kimsquit Bay Lodge on the Dean. And then from there, I go up to BC and kind of freelance a little bit. And then I host a trip every year at Skeena Spey on the lower Skeena. I've been doing that for many years, and hosting at a number of lodges in that Skeena country. So I usually spend 4 or 5 weeks up in Skeena country every year in that late August into September. And then come at the end of September and October, I usually go down to the lower Klamath, help Confluence Outfitters out with their spay camps down there. And that's a super cool venue. And then November's on the Rogue, Upper Rogue, kind of being at home and guiding on the Upper Rogue. I think that's a great month for those fall steelhead. And then December, I host a trip to New Orleans every year for big bull redfish and a lot of beignets and really good food and really good whiskey. And yeah, and that's my calendar year. And it moves a little bit as new interests pop up or opportunities. But that's kind of how it goes between guiding and hosting, you know, and kind of go from there.
Well, that sounds like a pretty epic year. And to do that year in, year out, that's a pretty good cycle you've put together for yourself in this industry. It's not easy to piece all that together and you know, keep the bills paid and keep the blood flowing and get to experience such a diverse number of fisheries across the globe. And it sounds like you know, obviously steelhead are always going to be, you know, kind of at the core of who you are as an angler and a person, but you've discovered these other fisheries that interest you for various reasons too, and have chosen to kind of focus on those and share those with some of your longtime friends and clientele. So good on you, man. That's not easy to pull off.
Exactly. Nope. That's for sure, but super gratifying, and I'm grateful, and there's a lot of people that helped on the way in terms of steering me and influencing me to find, you know, a lot of these places in a career I didn't intend to really do. It just kind of became who I was, you know, and it's, you wake up and it's like, oh my God, well, how old am I? How long have I been doing this? The real job just gets further and further away, but mind you, it is a job because a lot of work goes into all this stuff, and thankfully my family is supportive of it. And as you said, you know, that it's a relationship-based business, as you know, and I'm just fortunate to have developed some just incredible friendships and clientele over the years. And, you know, because the type of fishing I do certainly is not the easiest, and it's not a big pull in terms of people that I like spending time on and off the water, because I like really challenging fishing, and I love casting and angling well and teaching people how to do it and how to appreciate those venues where you just feel like it's just more value if it's tougher to have, you know, those types of moments that you do remember. You know, if you're just trying to catch a bunch of truck trout somewhere, or just go, and I'm not dissing other venues and things like that, but if you just want to go somewhere with a clicker and have 30 pictures of the same silver in Alaska, you know, after a trip, like, we landed 375, you're never gonna do like that weird story I told, you know. I didn't catch any of those permit, and it was still one of the most memorable fishing days I ever had, right? You know.
Yeah.
And whether it's permit fishing or a week fishing on the Skeena or the Dean or the Florida Keys or whatnot, you know, you don't base a fishery on like one experience you have. You go there and other places, and it's like, yeah, you just, as an angler, you know, it's like, boy, I just really like those challenging fisheries, and yeah.
Yeah. So what are you seeing out there as far as the winter steelhead numbers this year, Dax, as opposed to like last year, and kind of what's the trend right now? Are you optimistic?
I'm optimistic.
Always, of course, you're optimistic. You're a winter steelhead guy.
Yeah.
But
hope springs eternal. It better.
Yeah.
You know, you see everything if you've been winter steelheading enough, you know. So we had this crazy, as you might know, in Northern California, Southern Oregon, we had like records amount of precip for December. And then here January came by and it like didn't rain once. So all our rivers here in Southern Oregon, and talking to some friends down in NorCal too, everything's just really, really low. So the smaller watersheds, they're like tiny trickles and creeks. So those aren't fishing. So, you know, you're having to go to the bigger systems to even have a shot at finding some fish. But man, it's kind of like summer steelhead fishing on the Grand Ronde or Deschutes or wherever your favorite summer steelhead river is. You're like, no matter what, you're going to be having some bright sun, cloudless days, like day after day, and you're kind of looking for shade. And, you know, it's like, God, it's hard enough.
Right.
But, you know, the rivers are low and clear. But, man, I had a good week last week. I encountered fish every day I worked. And knock on wood, you know, they just have to come through sooner or later. So, and also pressure's way down when it's like that. In Southern Oregon, anyway, we have some political stuff that's happened. I'm sure people have read about where you're allowed to kill wild steelhead, and it's the only place on the planet where you're still allowed to harvest wild steelhead, and boy, they really like doing that around here. And so, you know, at the mouths of these rivers, though, where you could drive to a gravel bar, if the rivers are in primo flow shape, you know, dropping after a rain, there'll literally be over 100 anglers parked out there with the side planers and spinning glow and sand shrimp, and it's hard for a biter steelhead to just kind of cruise on by that. So me and Johnny talk all the time, and Gino, about like, it's a miracle we even get them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's just so lethal. It's not as bad as having a gill net, but yeah. So that's, you know, with them not being out there, I think then I actually run into more fish because there's just more biters around. So I think it's been okay so far. And from an optimistic standpoint, just talking to friends that are fish biologists or friends with biologists, you know, it sounds like ocean conditions are improving, because that's one of the main things that the ODFW talks about. Like, you know, we haven't managed it bad at all. It's all about the ocean. That's why the numbers are, you know, and you can only blame the ocean so much, but you got to look hard at what your regulations are on your fishery. And like, you have control over that. You know, you shouldn't be allowed to be able to side drift row right below a fish ladder, you know. It's just insane. And that's on a different system. That's up on the Umpqua. But anyway, and there's, so, you know, Washington, Oregon, California, all these fishery management entities, you know, I think they're getting more aware because the alarm bells have been ringing now and more people are getting involved. And that gives me hope, Justin, is it's just a lot more people are aware of the plight of steelhead, and then they become active conservationists. And I think that is going to help manage fisheries better in the future, you know, because hell, we're only here for I'm only going to be a steelhead fisherman for another, hopefully 40, 50 years, which is just such a minuscule amount of time in the long run. So if dams come out and we have continued drought, yeah, there's going to take a while for all that sediment. And this is the Klamath, for instance. You know, there was so much resistance for taking those dams out. And, well, when you take them dams out, they'll just be silt through the whole river. And then none of you swing people will get any fit. You know, all those rednecks that love the dams. You know, I think the closer you get it back to nature, the better. And then the steelhead recovers. So I kind of went off on a little tangent there, but it's...
No, it's all good. Yeah, the one thing that we have to remember about steelhead is that they're incredibly resilient species. Like, I mean, we have beaten them down, and you know, at times nature has beaten them down to a trickle, and they, as long as there's enough around to maintain the genetic diversity, they will recover on their own if you get out of their way. And they've done that time and time again. You know, it's interesting, like when I started guiding steelhead in the early 90s, there were years where there wasn't many fish around, you know, like, and then during obviously my steelhead experience primarily comes from the Columbia system, which is closed currently. But, you know, there were just, it was kind of understood that, hey, you might not go catch a steelhead every day, right? And then I remember days and, you know, days stretching into weeks when the conditions were stagnant, like you just referred to, where we just had high sun and heat for days on end and nothing was changing. You know, the deck was not being shuffled per se. And it's tough to stay optimistic as a guide in those conditions, because it's like, all right, well, today's the same day as it's been for the last 11 days and we haven't touched a fish. But you have to approach every day as today something's going to happen, right? And
absolutely.
Yeah. And then that's also, that could be, you know, just a way to look at this as in a bigger scope, you know, as the big picture. Like, yeah, there were a lot of lean years in the 80s and 90s. And then there was the 2000s when it boomed, and, you know, anybody with a spey rod and a half a day could go down to the Deschutes and stand a pretty good chance of hooking and landing a fish. So I guess my point is that we need to remain optimistic, do what we can to get out of these fish's way where we can, where it makes sense. If that means breaching some decrepit old dams that are doing more harm than good, then so be it. And you know, the same guys that bitch and moan, like you mentioned, they want fish too. They just don't necessarily know how to go about it.
Nobody wants closures, Justin. You know what I mean? When they close a fishery, none of us get to fish, no matter how you go about doing it. So I think it's created some community, some more advocates, regardless of what your technique is. And hats off to these management agencies that have made some tough decisions about closures. And yeah, of course, none of them are perfect right now, but I think I'm optimistic, as you said, about them handling it better and managing it better, because there's more advocates out there across the board.
So it's interesting to me that, and I know this is a loaded question, but it's interesting to me that the ODF&W would make a decision to say close the Columbia tributaries like they did, yet they will not prohibit the catch and kill of wild fish down in your neck of the woods. It's just kind of a conundrum to me. Is it based on license sales? What is it? It's obviously can't be based on science, because the science is pretty much telling us there's not really enough fish right now to allow for catch and kill of wild fish. So, just, I guess, in your view, what is the political reasoning behind the ODF&W's lack of movement on that issue, on the catch and kill issue on the South Coast? Because you can't kill wild fish, pretty much anywhere else in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah, there's a couple small ones in north central Oregon. But yeah, for the most part, it's one of the biggest paradoxes and as I look at management from British Columbia and closures up there on the Skeena, and Washington closures on the Skagit, and regulation adjustments and some closures on the Olympic Peninsula, and then down here and going down to the Columbia and the North Umpqua this summer, closing that down, and the Deschutes, and all the way down here, you get to the Southern Oregon coast, and it's like, you know what, it's okay to just harvest these wild fish. And so it's mind bending. And I've been to every public comment or public observation ODFW meeting where they discuss it that's possible. And I don't want to start like crazy conspiracy theories and things like that, because they have done a good job in other aspects. I think this one, though, is simple enough that it is down to local coastal politics. And for the most part, residents in these counties in Southern Oregon do want to have the ability to harvest wild steelhead and not be told they can't. And I think that they've been able to influence the commission to continue to be able to do it. And which to me is irritating, because so the road goes through a whole bunch of counties. It goes through my county, where I live and where I pay taxes, and I fish the Upper Rogue. And me and most of my friends believe in catch and release of wild steelhead. Well, because they come in down here, like why do they have more influence than we do? But I think that's what it is. And I think, license sales, sure, that's a part of it, but a healthy fishery, if it's healthy, people are still going to buy licenses. An open fishery is going to sell hotel rooms and groceries and restaurant sale, but a closed fishery, a lot less people will be coming here, so that would negatively impact them, obviously. So yeah, it's crazy. I think it's just literally old school politics that have led again to this decision. And they have a new management plan that they're supposed to be collecting angler survey data on. And I've been on the water most of the last 30 days. I haven't seen one representative from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, doing any type of checks, because that's supposedly a big part of their data assessment. How many fish are being caught? How many fish are being harvested? How many are coming back? All those things provide scientific data. And so when you allow a kill fishery essentially here without the data to back that it's sustainable. I think that's just absolutely insane, but that is what continues to happen here. And, I talked to a group of 10 to 15 guides that fish all kind of ways around here, and none of us has seen any monitoring whatsoever of these fish. It's disappointing that, the biologist locally here thinks that everything's fine and just doesn't agree that we should take a precautionary approach to management in relation to allowing wild harvest of these fish.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because I remember when we were down there filming those steelhead shows, and we went to the Smith, and they had just installed this state-of-the-art fish counting device on the lower Smith. And I was going to ask you about that because, to my knowledge, a lot of those kind of systems aren't in place on a lot of those other rivers that you work on, right? Those are largely freestone, undammed streams. So it's not like the Columbia where they can count the fish coming up the fish ladder. So I was going to ask you that very question. Like, where does that ODF&W, where do they get their data on these numbers of fish to justify catch and kill?
They don't have the data. They have no accurate data at all in real time. They'll refer to some studies that they did like in 2012. They'll kind of talk about summer fish. But they have no data whatsoever on any of these rivers in terms of knowing. And when you ask them at these meetings, how many fish are going up the Elk River, how many wild fish are going up the Chetco, how many this year or in 2021, and they can't honestly give you an answer because they don't know. So it's just kind of scary that that you would allow wild harvest, 5 per year, for instance, in the Rogue, and because the other thing that there isn't is any enforcement of 5 per year. So, and again, I'm not saying everybody does it, but there's plenty of people that are out there. Nice 14-pounder, Bob. Like, well, should we mark our card? Let's just see what else happens today. You know what I mean? Like, right. Or at there's a part of the Chetco where I've watched it multiple times where you could hike down, get your fish, walk up, throw it in your cooler, look around, hike back down, and then there's parts of these upper smaller rivers that I like to hike up into, and I see evidence of fish murdering in these upper reaches, and you talk to some of the ODFW guys, and they're just like, I think that's blown out of proportion. It's like, well, I'm like, it's fact, like I've seen it, and it's just disappointing that they don't account for anything like that. And it's just one of the craziest things in all my travels, around the planet. You go to Placencia in Belize and you walk up to a dock and the first thing you see is a giant billboard that has a tarpon, a permit, and a bonefish, and it says, "These fish are all protected under law. You will be prosecuted to the fullest," and this like kind of third world, dude, the main street's dirt, you know what I mean? And they get it. And then you come to Gold Beach or Brookings and it's like front page of the paper, you're allowed to keep harvesting 5 per, and it's like, this is your resource. Like, what are you doing? Like, anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. That's what you just shared there, that they really don't have any data. That's spooky.
Yeah.
Well, it was more fun talking about lost wallets in Mexico, but
that's right.
But I appreciate your perspective on a subject that I know hits very close to home for all of you folks that live and work and kind of revolve around those special fish. Like we said, all we can do is we can hope that the situation improves in the future and do whatever we can
Write letters to the commission, just to, kind of look around at certain nonprofits that are helping, with the future sustainability of steelhead everywhere, and just become an advocate, and I think participation breeds advocacy, and I agree with some closures, particularly if they're temperature related. And there's other closures that I don't understand too much. So, just be aware of where you're going and be active with it, and help protect these fish, because they're super important and a reflection of, the same thing with salmon, the anadromous fish. If it's healthy, then what's surrounding it's probably healthy too, particularly the communities, and it probably shows that they have, good people in it running the show if they're looking towards having healthy fisheries.
Should Great Lakes rainbows be called steelhead?
No.
There it is. All right. Well, Dax, I've taken up enough of your time, man. How do folks...
No offense. I'm from Pennsylvania. I've got bunches of them, and they're great, and they fight hard, and there's lots of them, but it's a different animal, and God bless all you guys out there. They're awesome, but no. Very
good. Very good. How could folks keep track of your wanderings? Give me your website, your Instagram handle, all that good stuff.
Yep. Instagram is just Dax Messett, DaxMessett. The website is www.daxfly.com. And if you just check that out, I try to keep the website up to date as good as I can. I'm not super computer savvy, but that and Instagram, and just shoot me an email, look at what my trips are, and if they interest you, shoot me an email or give me a call, and we could talk about availability and stuff. Most of my stuff books a year in advance, but sometimes people drop out or trip openings pop up, both on my hosted trips as well as my guide venues, and always looking to meet new people that are interested and look at fishing the same way, warped way, I guess, that I do. So yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you down the way.
Go to thefebruaryroom.com, where you can access a complete library of our podcast and read more about our guests, their fishing stories, and favorite fly patterns. We're always looking for exceptional fly fishing yarns, and if you have one to spin, shoot us an email at info@thefebruaryroom.com. The February Room is always free, but if you feel like throwing a nickel in the pond, we appreciate any additional listener support. For companies and individuals interested in sponsorship opportunities, please contact us for our media kit. Thanks for stopping by the February Room, and we'll see you down here next week.